I love running. Running is my little paradise. Almost every day from the minute I joined the track team in 7th grade, I've been completely enamored with the thought of running. And yet, for the majority of my running career, it was a sport that I never truly understood. In the beginning, I wasn't able to grasp the significance or the importance of simply moving one foot in front of the other. I wasn't really able to understand what running was at the most basic level. In fact, looking back on it now, I really have no idea why I stuck with running in the first place. I wasn't fast, I had awful form, and I was terrified of competing at meets. At the time, running was just another activity for me. It didn't have much significance in my life, and it certainly wasn't something I thought would be a long-time passion of mine. During my sophomore year of high school, though, things started to change. Specifically, the date was November 21st, 2010, and although it's been almost 4 years since that brisk November morning, it's a day that I'll never forget. So here I am, the morning of November 21st, lined up at the starting line to the Philadelphia Marathon. I'm a sophomore in high school, I've never run more than 15 miles before in my life, and I'm probably the stupidest looking runner on the entire course. Everyone around me has fancy running shoes, moisture wicking shirts, compression shorts, water bottles for hydration, you name it. And yet here I am, this tiny high schooler wearing a purple thrift shop sweatshirt, an Eagles hat, and some soccer shorts. But that's the great thing about running. Unlike other sports where it matters who has the newest cleats or who has the best racket, running is based on your own two legs. Even though I didn't look the part of a runner, my legs were just as good as everyone's around me. The gun goes off, and I'm jogging along, high-fiving the mayor as I cross the starting line, really enjoying the moment as much as I could. I mean, after all, it was my first marathon. I really had no idea what I was in for. Then I get this feeling of it's almost indescribable. If you can imagine the combination of adrenaline and that feeling you get right before you really need to poop, that basically sums it up. It was an incredibly exciting feeling to be starting the race, but at the same time, I was incredibly nervous that I might not be able to make it. The idea that I would be running for the next 4 hours was really kind of hard to wrap my head around. I mean, let's be real, I probably couldn't even watch TV for 4 hours without getting bored, let alone run through the streets of Philadelphia. Fortunately for me, though, the nerves went away pretty quickly, and after about a mile or two, I think I was doing pretty well. The next major dilemma that most runners encounter during a race like that is pace. Although you're ideally supposed to start with people in similar pace brackets as you, the reality is that majority of the 40-year-old men still think they can run with 18-year-olds. What happens is you get a few thousand old guys that run a few miles and then pretty much walk the rest of the race. So in order to compensate for that fact, I started doing everything possible to get around them. I was running through people's front yards, running in the oncoming traffic lane, cutting people off, really just doing whatever it took to keep moving. Flash forward a few hours, and I'm crossing the finish line. So across the finish line, and barely made it across. It was a serious struggle. Kind of had to walk the last 5 miles or so, but hey, you know what? Who doesn't have some struggles during their first marathon? I guess if there's anything I could tell someone else about my whole experience with my first marathon, it'd be that the marathon has this prestige as like, oh, you've run a marathon, you must be this great runner, you must be an elite runner, you must be really good at running. And it really couldn't be further from the truth. I came from a high school track runner that started off probably dead last on the team in my event, and yet here I am a few years later running marathons. It's certainly something that really anyone could do. I mean, I personally don't consider myself an elite runner. I don't consider myself anywhere near an elite runner, and yet it's really just something that I love doing. The thing with marathon running is you just really need to love running. Above all else, it really teaches you a respect for the sport that I think most people don't notice. I mean, most people think of running as just a way to kind of get in shape or to look good for the beach, look good for the summer. But at the most basic level, running's a sport that's really earned my respect. And particularly long distance running is something that most people really just don't appreciate while they're engaged in it. While the marathon distance certainly isn't something to take lightly, it's not as daunting, not anywhere near as daunting as many people make it up to be. I personally think that anyone could run a marathon. I mean, I think I'm living proof of that. I was never that great of a runner, and yet here I am a few years later, having now run 5 marathons, and I love every minute of it. I mean, certainly after a race, you're you're thinking to yourself, "Wow, I'm never gonna do this again. Like this really sucked." But it's just something that you keep coming back to. It's something that becomes a part of your life. And I can personally say, without running, I really wouldn't know what to do with myself. It's become such an integral part of my everyday life that if I were to lose my ability to run, I wouldn't be me anymore.